Myself and Aideen Howard, the literary director of the Abbey here, were looking for a pre-existing story that we could, or I could, reinvent really. Some familiar tale that would resonate with what events in Ireland today. So eventually Aideen suggested a government inspector. I'd read it maybe 30 years ago, but reading it again, it just stopped being an old play very, very quickly and seemed very current. I was just getting my teeth into the second draft when the IMF arrived. And bad news for the country, but great news for a storyteller. And it wasn't that I was keen to get the IMF into the play, because that would be a disaster, but it just added another elbow to the play's body, so to speak. You know, that the government inspector who's arriving in town stops being somebody from just up the road and could quite possibly be somebody with colossal clout and power, somebody terrifying who could actually close down the place, you know.
Jesus, man, you opened a letter written by an important government personage. That's the thing, though!
4 years ago, if you said the word envelope, it would mean just what it did, that physical thing into which you put a letter or a card. But looking at the presidential campaign, and the mere mention of the word envelope by Sean Gallagher was the death of his presidency. People just howled with laughter. And not just in the studio, you could almost hear it throughout the country. I was whooping at home because it just seemed, you know, it's today. You know, it's not historical, it's today. You're not too long into it when you start thinking of Basil Fawlty, you know. And you remember that episode where he decides that a spoon salesman is in fact a health inspector and brings the entire staff with him. They all think he's a health inspector. And that's the plot of the government inspector, really. Now, the government inspector was produced in 1836. I think Fawlty Towers was 1974-75. So that's a gap of 130 years, and then up to from Fawlty Towers to here is 30 years. And it's still funny. Mistaken identity, you know, it can be very, if it's well done, it can be hilarious.